And I'd like to now get a motion and a second to adopt today's agenda.
Move adoption of the agenda.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? That passes unanimously. Council member announcements. First, I'm going to start off with our Mardi Gras parade is this Saturday. It begins at 1 o'clock. And I think council has heard we're asked to be at the where the floats are lining up down by Veterans Park by 12:30 on Saturday. So looking forward to having a lot of fun for that day. And also, the Vice Mayor and I would like to announce that we will be having office hours to address any questions or further comments that anybody has for the Yountville Commons and other items as well. Our first office hours, and we'll set up another schedule later, but we are going to be, let me get to my calendar, meeting on Monday, February the 23rd at 1 o'clock in the Schmidt Boardroom. And then again on Tuesday, February the 24th at 2 o'clock in the Schmidt Boardroom for an hour. That's our plan right now. And then again on Monday, March the 2nd at 1 o'clock. So once we get a little closer, we'll be working on our calendars and setting up some more routine times. So for now, if you want to mark your calendars for that, I'll also try to send a letter to the editor, to the Yountville Sun, so everybody else can see that as well. Any other council comments? Vice Mayor.
I just wanted to report out that last week we had bowling with a vet, and it was a huge success. I think it was the best illustration of mingling that we've had so far. Lots of enthusiasm and lots of fun. And we're planning an additional bowling with the vet for March 12th at 11 again. And you can volunteer or secure your space by calling Irene Jenny at 925-899-9708 or email her at Jenny, JENNYS, us at att.net. So it was a really great thing, and I can't recommend it enough.
Okay, thank you.
And
Councilmember McKee.
Thank you. Speaking of kind of open house hours going forward, I have Monday Matters, a series that has been advertised in the paper already once. It's by appointment, and location is to be determined by each appointment, but any Monday I am available going forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Tripp.
Not to be out of sync with everyone, I'm planning a meeting to get any feedback on current projects, particularly the Commons, for Sunday, February 22nd. Excuse me. The location will be determined, but it will hopefully be in some sort of town facility here. So that would be Sunday, February 22nd.
All right, seeing no more council announcements, proclamations, and recognition. So it is my pleasure to recognize February as Yountville Days. I'm just going to read this from the dais here. So this proclamation recognizes February as Yountville Days, whereas the town of Yountville is a vibrant and welcoming community known for its strong sense of place, rich local culture, and role as a world-renowned destination within the Napa Valley, and whereas Yountville Days is an initiative designed to celebrate the people, businesses, organizations, and experiences that make Yountville unique, while also supporting local economic vitality. And whereas the town of Yountville was officially incorporated on February the 4th, 1965, marking an important milestone in the community's history and the beginning of its evolution as an engaged, self-governed town. And whereas the month of February offers an opportunity to honor Yountville's history while highlighting local events, community traditions, and visitor experiences, including signature celebrations such as Mardi Gras Week and the Mustard Celebration that encourage engagement with Yountville's shops, restaurants, lodging, parks, and cultural offerings. And therefore, let it be resolved that I, Margie Moeller, Mayor, on behalf of the Town Council, proclaim the month of February as Yountville Days, and encourages residents, businesses, and visitors to participate in and enjoy the activities, programs, and experiences that celebrate the spirit and vitality of Yountville throughout the month. So we raised the flag, and we've got a lot more events planned for February. So, and also, second, I would like to read we have a certificate of appreciation to outgoing Parks and Rec Advisory Commissioner Lorene Rugg, and it says that she wasn't able to be here today, that the Town Council and staff express a sincere thank you for your contributions and service to the town of Yountville, and as a member of the Parks and Rec Advisory Commission from January 21, 2024 through January 20, 2026. So if you could pass this along to her clerks, I'd appreciate that. So with that, it's now time for public comment that's on anything that is not on today's agenda. So if anybody would like to come and give your name and come up to the podium, this would be a good time to do that.
Carrie Hayes. I have 3 questions for the council. First, under the California Constitution, do you have the legal authority to approve the financing structure for the Commons project without a public vote? I'm asking because to date, it hasn't been clearly and publicly discussed that financing would fall outside the constitutional limits on municipal debt under Article 16, Section 18, and also Prop 13. And that legal distinction matters and deserves to be addressed publicly. Separate from the legality is the financial risk. Even if financing is structured to avoid voter approval, it still creates a long-term financial obligation. If projected revenues underperform, including a very predictable decline in TOT, the risk doesn't disappear. It shifts it to future budgets, future councils, and ultimately to residents. So that leads to my second question. Even if you have the legal authority, are you thinking it's ethically appropriate to commit the town to a long-term financial obligation of this scale without a direct vote of the residents, given the volume of concerns repeatedly raised but not substantively addressed? Here's what leads me to ask that. Let's say it's March 3rd. You have a vote before you to agree to the pro forma financing and award the construction contract, as is the town's plan for that date. It is possible that 2 of you vote yes, 2 of you vote no. 1 council member representing 3/100ths of 1% of the town population would commit Yountville to long-term debt and to a project that would permanently change the town despite unresolved public concerns. To put the scale in context, 3 yes votes is about 0.09% of the town population, 4 is about 0.12, and 5 is about 0.15. So you get the math. Are each of you prepared to carry that responsibility, knowing that there are outstanding legal, financial, and community concerns? Now, you very well may say, oh, well, we were elected to make those decisions, and that raises a deeper question. How do you distinguish in your minds the difference between decisions appropriately delegated to elected officials and decisions like this one, where the scale, financial exposure, and impact on the town's character warrant direct voter approval? Yep, there have been opportunities for public input, but public comment is not public discussion. One-on-one meetings are not public discussion. You know, the Brown Act is often called the Sunshine Laws, and one-on-one meetings do not bring discussion content into the sunshine either. Meetings led by staff or project consultants are not neutrally facilitated public forums, but are tightly controlled. Even if February 17th is treated as another opportunity for input, with March 3rd identified as the go date, that leaves 9 business decisions for the council and residents to evaluate a decision with decades-long consequences. Is it even possible to do that level of analysis in that amount of time? And is that tight timing acceptable to each of you? So before moving forward, I urge the council to take 4 procedural steps. 1, if you determine voter approval is not required, place a written legal opinion on the public record explaining why. 2, don't proceed with any approvals unless and until BAE, KNN, and the design build teams have jointly stress test renter demand, achievable rents, financing, interest rate assumptions, and construction costs, and publicly disclose the town's financial exposure if revenues fall short, financing terms worsen, or costs increase. 3, hire a professional neutral facilitator for the February 17th meeting. And really pause approval until all analyses are completed, presented, and publicly explored and discussed. This isn't about stopping a great project. It is about slowing it down legally and ethically to ensure responsible stewardship of public resources. By putting this decision to a vote, you as council can accomplish 2 great things. You create new housing and earn lasting public trust through a democratic process. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come up and address the council on anything that's not on today's agenda? Seeing nothing, no one else interested, I am going to move to the consent calendar. We have 6 items on our consent calendar, and Town Clerk, can we hear, and when our resolution comes up, would you like for us to use our voting buttons?
You may use the vote system for the consent calendar.
Okay, thank you very much. So first, let's get a motion and a second, and then we can have any discussion for our consent calendar.
I'll move to adopt the consent calendar.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Anybody have any discussion on that motion on the table? No? Do we have any public comment for our consent calendar?
Alan Tenscher, I just had one question about the biological solids and if we know what the PFAS numbers are for those.
Yes, Brad, we want to address that question?
I'm going to look back at John Ferns.
Okay.
We have tested our solid in the past for PFAS and didn't find any. And given our water source, we haven't experienced any. The solids that are addressed in this issue have not been tested for PFAS.
Okay. Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, would you like to call for the vote, Clerk?
You may vote.
Okay, thanks.
The consent calendar passes unanimously.
All right, thank you very much. And we have no guest presentations today. We do have a public hearing. The public hearing today is to receive and file a presentation to satisfy requirements of Assembly Bill 2561. for the Town of Yountville workforce vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts. So, Brad, you going to start us off?
Sure, I can just introduce Ashley Ray, our Human Resources Analyst, also Manager. This is something all municipalities throughout the state are required to report on now. I think it was, intended to address outsourcing, or whatever term you want to call contracted work. So you'll see all the data points. Clearly, we're a small municipality. I think it will be, I think it's well put together and easily understandable, but I just wanted everyone to understand kind of the basis for this, and it does require the public hearing. So with that, Ashley, please go ahead.
Thank you. All right. Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. Today I'll be presenting on the status of the Town of Yountville vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts as required by Assembly Bill, or AB 2561. A little background. In September of 2024, Governor Newsom signed into law AB 2561 to amend the Brown Act and create an obligation of public agencies to publicly address the status of their vacancies. No matter the industry, vacancies force employees to take on heavier workloads and more responsibility than what is required of them. As a result, employees are overworked, overwhelmed, and burned out, resulting in increased turnover, low morale, and disruption to essential public services. AB 2561 brings greater transparency and accountability to the hiring process by requiring public agencies to report and explain their staffing vacancies during open meetings. Excuse me. This not only keeps the public informed about service capacity, but also encourages more timely recruitment efforts. By shining a light on long-standing vacancies, the law aims to reduce operational strain, restore workforce stability, and improve the quality of services delivered to the community. Today, I'll present on workforce information, vacancies, recruitment, hiring, and retention efforts town-wide and specifically for each bargaining unit. I'll also conclude today with our retention efforts moving forward into 2026. This presentation is for calendar year 2025, so all information will be presented as of December 31st, 2025. The Town of Yountville had 36 budgeted full-time positions across 5 different departments. Over the next few slides, I'll discuss which full-time positions were budgeted within each department and which services are rendered by those departments. The Administrative Services Department provides a wide range of administrative, financial, and human resources services to support both internal operations and public-facing responsibilities. The budgeted positions in the Admin Services Department were Administrative Services Director, Financial Analyst, Accounting Technician, Human Resources Analyst, and Administrative Assistant, which is a shared position between the town manager and the communications and town clerk departments. Although this presentation is specific to full-time staff, I do want to mention that there is one part-time accounting assistant in the department as well. Together, staff work to provide accurate information and customer service to residents, businesses, and visitors. Financial operations include developing and monitoring the town's annual budget, managing investments, coordinating annual financial audits, and ensuring the timely processing of biweekly payroll and weekly vendor payments. The department also handles monthly utility billing, various revenue collections, and administration of the TOT tax, or transient occupancy tax, and business licensing. On the human resources side, services encompass recruitment and staffing, compensation and benefits, promoting a positive workplace culture, offering training and development opportunities, and more. Next, we have the Communications and Town Clerk Department. The budgeted positions are Communications Director, Town Clerk, Deputy Director of Marketing and Economic Development, Deputy Town Clerk, Records Coordinator, and Information Systems Administrator. As the elections official and filing officer, the town clerk administers municipal elections, campaign finance, and conflict of interest regulations. As the records manager, the department administers the town-wide records management program to maintain accessibility to public records and information to the community. The town clerk's office also works with all departments to engage with and serve the community through effective messaging on a variety of our platforms like the town website, email, and social media. IT coordinates systems and services across all departments and assists with public-facing technologies. The Deputy Director of Marketing and Economic Development leads and implements marketing, outreach, and economic development initiatives to promote the town's services, events, tourism, and business growth, serving as a key liaison with the business community. Next, we have the Parks and Recreation Department. The Parks and Recreation Department consists of the Parks and Recreation Director, Recreation Supervisor, Administrative Assistant, and 3 Recreation Coordinators who each support different areas of the department. The Parks and Recreation staff also includes multiple part-time and seasonal staff. The department enriches the community by providing enjoyable, clean, and beautiful parks and facilities for the residents and visitors of Yountville to enjoy or reserve, organize community events and activities through the recreational programming that cater to diverse age groups and interests, and plan and execute trips and excursions to different locations and events. The department also coordinates volunteer opportunities for the town as well. For the Planning and Building Department, it consists of the Planning and Building Director, Deputy Planning and Building Director, and a management analyst who serves as the principal planner. The department is responsible for providing planning, building, housing, environmental services, and code enforcement services. The department provides applicants with efficient permit processing services for building permits, seller's permits, tree removal permits, land use permits, and more. They also provide citizens with appropriate opportunities to participate in land use decisions, and the department also administers and fulfills the objectives of the general plan, implements the zoning and design ordinance, and oversees the zoning and design review board. Our final department is the Public Works Department. It's split into 3 different divisions. We have administration, utility operations, and municipal operations. The budgeted positions for this department are Public Works Director, Deputy Public Works Director, Management Analyst, Engineering Technician, Public Works Manager, 2 lead maintenance workers, 4 maintenance workers, a utility operations manager, and 5 utilities operators. The Public Works Department also has 2 part-time maintenance assistants on staff. The administration staff works on designing and managing projects, managing the budgets and permits, and coordinating the work for the field staff. The municipal and utility operations staff are the staff you see out and about working on water leaks, sewer leaks, damaged street signs, flood preparation, stormwater cleanup, trash cleanup, parks landscaping, maintenance, and so much more. And for good reason. That is why the Public Works Department, it makes up most of our full-time workforce. Moving on to our vacancy information, we started the year with 7 vacancies, which rolled over from 2024. We actively filled all of our fiscal year 25-26 budgeted positions throughout the year, lowering the percentage of our total vacancies from 18.4% down to 2.8%, leaving only 1 vacant position at the end of 2025. The final vacancy was the Deputy Planning and Building Director, which was closed for recruitment in February of 2025 due to a low number of applicants for that position. The position is still budgeted, and I'll touch on that a little bit later in the presentation. For recruitment information, the recruitment and hiring process is conducted in the order that is shown on this slide. From the start of the recruitment process to the end, it takes approximately 3 months. So from the job opening, which is the step that begins our recruitment clock, to a job offer, which is the step that we consider the recruitment fully closed, is about 2.5 months. This timeline can really vary by classification and also the recruitment type. I'll be talking a little bit more about that later in the presentation as well. During 2025, we filled 9 out of the 10 total vacancies in the town. As discussed in that previous slide, the Deputy Planning and Building Director position remains unfilled to be filled at a later date. The average calendar days that external recruitments took to fill the position was 73 days, and we filled 5 positions in that average time. When we have an external recruitment, the vacancy is open for 30 days, so that's a whole month right there for our timeline. There's also a review process, scheduling interviews. Those are typically a week out after the recruitment closes. To allow for the scheduling for the applicant, it could be up to 2 weeks. Then we have a first and a second interview, usually a week or more apart. And from the time that they apply to the time we offer, we're just over that 2-month mark. Although a majority of the vacancies that we had were filled externally, we did have 3 that were filled internally by internal candidates, so our own staff moving up, and that average vacancy was 30 days. So the difference between the days that those vacancies are open is really the time period for which that they are open. So for an external vacancy, they're open for 30 days. An internal vacancy, it's open for about 7 days. There were very few hiring obstacles in 2025. We addressed most of them in 2024, which was really great. So the 2 that really remained or that we dug into were background checks and also a limited candidate pool for positions like our utilities operators that require very strict state certifications. So to address these, when we make a conditional offer to an applicant, they fill out a background request form, which is then automatically routed to me. I fax it in, do it the old-fashioned way. But to help improve this, and so it doesn't take as long, because that could take up to 2 weeks, we're no longer using the outdated fax option, and instead we're entering the information in the background check website and their portal instead. And that turnaround time is now up to 3 business days. So definitely saving us a lot of time so we can get somebody in the door much faster. The last obstacle that we addressed was having a limited candidate pool for utilities positions. The state has very strict requirements for these positions because utilities operators are responsible for ensuring the safety and quality of our drinking water and managing water treatment and distribution systems. There are many environmental regulations and standards that need to be upheld to protect public health and the environment. So it is extremely important that the operators have the necessary knowledge, skills, and abilities to perform their duties. Before the operator can even get the desired certificates for an operator position, they must work as an operator in training in a wastewater treatment plant under the direct supervision of a certified operator for a minimum of 1,800 hours. So much of the time that is a volunteer role and is very time consuming before they're even qualified to have the certificates. So to combat that obstacle, I began networking with local utility operators on LinkedIn and other agencies and get to know the people who are in the positions already and find out more about their qualifications and gauge their interest level on if they're looking for new roles within the industry or if they're happy where they're at, and creating that trust so I can also, the people who are happy where they're at, get network with them as well to get some candidates from them. So by reaching out directly, I was able to find qualified candidates to apply, and rather than waiting for the candidates who may or may not have the qualifications necessary, we received more qualified candidates than in previous recruitments for the same position. During 2025, 6 vacancies were created. So of those vacancies, we had 2 that were newly budgeted positions, 3 were internal promotions, and 1 was a vacancy due to voluntary separation. The internal promotions in 2025 resulted in promotional opportunities for 8% of our staff and accounted for filling 50% of our vacancies that were created during the year. We had no retirements or involuntary separations in 2025. Now that we have discussed the overall workforce vacancy and recruitment and retention information, I'm going to shift to bargaining unit specific information. As a reminder, there are 2 bargaining units in the town of Yountville. We have the Yountville Employees Association, or the YEA, and the Mid-Management and Professionals Unit, or the MMP. And although they're not bargaining units, I'm also going to present the vacancies for our executive management, which is the town manager, department heads, and deputy directors. All right. In 2025, the YEA had 5 vacancies through the year. The average number of days that the recruitment was open was for 53 days, and there were no vacant YEA positions at the end of 2025. We were able to fill all of them. For recruitment, as mentioned a moment ago, we filled 5 out of 5 of the vacancies. 3 were recruited through an open recruitment with external candidates and internal candidates, and 2 were filled internally specifically. Employees receive a base pay within a 5-step range, with 5% increases between steps. Salary adjustments can also occur at 6 months with a positive performance review and meeting all qualifications of the position, and then annually thereafter. The COLA, or cost of living adjustments, are based on the CPI and bargaining agreements, and additional incentives and special pay include longevity pay, certificate pay, bilingual pay, lead worker pay, and standby pay. Some benefits that are offered to the YEA include medical and dental insurance, retirement, deferred compensation, paid time off, employee assistance program or an EAP, life and disability insurance, reimbursements and stipends such as a vision reimbursement, cell phone stipend, gym reimbursement, boot reimbursement for select classifications, and also a tuition reimbursement. We also offer supplemental benefits, which is optional coverage that's paid by the employee and offered through American Fidelity. Moving on to the MMP vacancy information. In 2025, the MMP had 3 vacancies. The average number of days that the recruitments were open for was 64 days, and there were no vacant MMP positions at the end of the year. We were able to fill 3 out of 3 of those vacancies for the MMP. 2 vacancies were filled from an external recruitment, and 1 was filled internally. For pay and benefits, they align with what's included with the YEA, but additional pay and benefits include a management incentive pay, confidentiality pay, 80 hours of administrative leave in lieu of overtime per fiscal year, and a tablet stipend every 3 years. While the executive management positions are at will and governed by individual employment agreements rather than included in a bargaining unit, it's helpful to consider the executive level vacancies that occurred in 2025, as these can have an impact on the workload and support needs of the bargaining unit's members. And in 2025, we had 2 executive management vacancies. The average number of days that the recruitment was open for was 0 days for the Deputy Director of Marketing and Economic Development, because we already had someone in mind and was ready to fill that via appointment when that position was opened. The only classification that was vacant at the end of the calendar year was the Deputy Planning and Building Director. The position opened for recruitment on November 20th, 2024, and we received only 2 qualified applicants. We wanted at least 5 viable applicants for open recruitments before conducting interviews to ensure that we have a competitive pool of candidates to reduce bias and also encourage equity. Because we did not meet this threshold for candidates, the recruitment was closed on February 20th, 2025. And it will continue to be budgeted and is planned to be reopened for recruitment in the future. In the meantime, we're utilizing consultants to complete comprehensive planning work and special projects, and internal staff are helping as needed. As we entered 2026 with no vacancies, which was really great, our priorities are now shifting from recruitment, which was really heavy in 2025, to retention, so we can be one of the most sought after employers in the public sector. Retention is shaped by a combination of factors such as stability, strong benefits, meaningful work, the opportunity to serve a community. And we want to retain our staff by delivering on those promises every day, by investing in our people and giving them meaningful growth opportunities, listening to their needs, and adapting as expectations change. To bring this back to our Yountville-focused core values, We want to consistently be forward-thinking by ensuring our compensation is within the market of our benchmark cities, be open-minded as new benefits hit the market, like implementing Roth options for our deferred compensation plans or federal savings accounts that the current administration is now offering. And we want to show commitment to our workforce with training and development plans for each individual and each classification. We want to be united in what we deliver to the employees so they can have the tools and knowledge necessary for the community's needs. All of this combined, we can sustain our workforce for the long term. That is all that I have today. I would like to now give our representatives of our bargaining units a chance to come up and make a presentation as well. We have Kyle and Jacob here from the MMP.
Good afternoon, Council, Mayor. Good afternoon, Ashley. Nice presentation. Kyle Batista, a representative for the MMP unit, and Jacob Solis, the other representative. We just want to say thank you. The numbers speak for themselves, I think. So thank you, Ashley, for all your efforts, and thank you, Council, for always supporting us. So that's the presentation, but thank you for everything.
Great presentation all around.
Thank you.
All right, so this is a public hearing. So first I'm going to ask the council if they have any questions and suggest they can just refrain from any comments until after their questions. Then I'll open the public hearing. We'll get any public comment. Then after I close the public hearing, we'll bring it back for council comments at that time. So questions, Councilmember Tripp.
Excellent presentation. And I have a pretty simple question, but I have actually thought about this a little bit. I think you do have kind of an internal policy. If you don't get 3 candidates, you close the recruitment. And, you know, it made me reflect when I've done some hiring for very particular kinds of positions. Once in a while, somebody will come along who's just perfect. So if they submitted a resume, but you didn't have 3, would you still close the position? Because for unusual positions, sometimes that happens. Not unusual, but, you know, here we're trying to find somebody who lives locally. You know, we have some, not constraints, but particular things for Yountville. So that's my question.
Right. I think that brings up a great point. And I will actually defer that to the town manager because he is the one who makes the decisions on what recruitments are open and for how long.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's a practice, not a policy, and I do think it's a best practice. However, to your point, there are sometimes very specific positions that require a skill set that's hard to recruit for. So it's a judgment call based on the recruitment. We could, make the exception, but as always, we try to follow best practice.
So that's to say, if you got a really spectacular candidate, you'd
Yes.
have. It's not a hard and fast rule.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And I think, there's been some examples of that we could discuss. But yes, the answer.
Councilmember McKee.
Thank you. That was going to be one of mine because I wrote down ideally wanted 5, but if it came in under that you generally close down the practice. So it's good to know that exceptions can be made for exceptional people. I appreciate very much that you're proactive in networking with candidates and using LinkedIn. It's great to not be reactive and hope that we get things. So good job on that. And the background checks that you're doing now online, is that a particular website that you use or a software that we needed to invest in?
No, we have used ERS historically, and their practice has been to fax it in. But once you fax it in, it has to get given to somebody to then take it over and start the file. But by utilizing their website instead of faxing, I'm able to start that file myself. So then that way it can automatically be directed to someone to take care of the background check.
Has their online capabilities been in existence for a while and we just hadn't moved with it, or?
Yeah, actually, it's something that I just found out about. So it was new to me.
You were happy.
Yeah, and I was very happy to find it.
Okay, thank you. Great
Yes.
presentation.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now I'm going to open the public hearing. So if anybody would like to, in the public, come up and address us on this item, please, this is the time for that. And I see a public.
Alan Tenscher. I was just curious about two different items. The first one had to do with the 7 days when it's an internal recruitment. And that means that you have candidates in-house that are identified, and then you open it to the public for 7 days. Is that the case?
It would just be internally, so it would just be opened internally to current staff. And if we don't receive any applications, then it would be open to the public. But if we do receive applications from internal staff, then that's where we keep it. And usually that happens because we've already identified candidates that have all qualifications necessary to fulfill the roles already employed.
Okay, that's great. My other question, and I too echo the comments, it's great that you're using these resources. Do you ever use headhunters, either executive or other, to recruit candidates?
We have in the past, but not recently.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anybody else would like to come up and address the council? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to council. So would you like for us to receive and file the report
Yes.
as our action? Okay, any other comments or questions from the council? Vice Mayor Reeves.
I just want to say that actually, rather than just this being a thing you have to do, I'm really appreciative of the report and to see the progress, and also to see the pool of employees who are now working together as a really functional unit. And I feel like you can feel it and you can see it. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be told about it and then to reinforce what I'm already seeing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Knight.
Thank you, Ms. Ray, for your report. I appreciate all the work that you put into this, and also I just wanted to also note that I appreciate all the work that you do on behalf of the town and for the Yountville employees, which includes council members. So at times we are included and receive information that's very helpful, and so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And without any other questions or comments, I'll go ahead and make a recommendation that on behalf of the entire council, we receive and file, and thank you very much for bringing this matter for us tonight.
Thank you.
Did they need to vote?
Do we
No,
just
they don't
second
need
it?
to
or-
Okay, I just want to make one final remark. I thought you were going to vote. This is the first year, and this obviously is more of a disclosure than it is an action. And I will be really interested, since all the municipalities are having to disclose the same information, where we stand. I know we will be towards the top. This is a tricky issue, and I want to compliment staff, starting with Ashley, obviously all the department heads. I'm glad that Kyle and Jacob are here. We have great employees, and it does take a lot of work to think that we are fully staffed, which I would say, because that one position that is unfilled, we're not recruiting for, is remarkable. So that's really a thank you to the organization. Obviously, we put a lot of effort, and it's clearly better to focus on retention than recruitment. So I was glad you ended there. And I also want to say, I know we're going into budget land next, or at least the second item. It's really a critical thing, and I think there's a slide where Kyle will be back up here talking about people deliver services, right? And this is where it's really sort of core to our mission. And you'll see that. I think everything that we're doing is working, and I think it's the team that really is here every day, and I think I'm just glad to be part of it. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So we're on to, we have two administrative items this afternoon. Our first is to adopt a resolution receiving the year-end financial report for fiscal year 24-25 and approving budget adjustments, assigning the available general fund unassigned fund balance in the fiscal year 25-26 budget. So I see Celia, you're going to give us a report on this?
Yes.
Thank
Good
you.
afternoon, Mayor and Town Council. Thank you. The preliminary June monthly financial report was on the July 15th, 2025 Town Council agenda. Today we present the updated June monthly financial report, which reflects revenue and expenditure activity as of the end of fiscal year 2024-2025 for the specific funds included in the report. This report is always brought back to Town Council in its final version for review after the audit has been completed and the prior fiscal year has been closed. Within the staff report is detailed information regarding the financial activity of the general fund, capital projects expenditures, and utility enterprise funds. Reviewing the year-end financial report also provides an opportunity for reallocation of unassigned fund balance in the general fund if the Town Council desires. A good reason for doing so at this point in the current fiscal year is that this funding is available now to be used for current priorities or could possibly be encumbered by the end of the fiscal year for a specific purpose. The staff report contains a recommendation for reallocation of the general fund unassigned fund balance for the Town Council to consider. First, we have a quick review of the audited actuals for the general fund. As shown in that fourth line there, based on the financial activity, the general fund had a balance of over $4.6 million as of June 30, 2025. After taking into consideration the general fund allocations in the adopted 2025-2026 budget, so the current year, the amount available in unassigned fund balance is $3,092,405. Here is a more detailed look at the current fiscal year general fund allocations. Most notably, the assigned for budget and legal contingencies amount of $678,000, which represents 5% of budgeted general fund expenditures per town policy. And those first two lines of non-spendable amounts are where we account for audit entries that are completed at the end of the fiscal year based on GASB requirements. These are components of fund balance, but not truly cash available to spend. Staff's recommendation is to transfer $3,050,000 into Capital Projects Fund 50 to be used for the Yountville Commons project, and leave $42,405 in unassigned fund balance in the general fund. Side note, I'm sorry to report there was a typo found in the resolution after the agenda had been adopted or published, sorry. So it's item 1 in the resolution should say $3,050,000 rather than $3 million. So we will correct that on the final resolution should it be adopted with this recommendation. And at this time, we welcome any questions you may have.
All right, thank you very much for that report. And first, I'm going to ask the council if they have any questions for you. Councilmember Tripp.
So the unassigned fund balance is beyond the, I believe it's a 10%, I don't want to say contingency, but it's sort of that every year is built into the budget. Is that correct?
It is beyond that, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Was that in the slide, the 10%?
Yes, it's the 5% of general fund expenditures, which you see in the assigned for budget and legal contingencies line.
Okay, so it's actually 5%.
It's 5%.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions at this time from council?
Mayor,
Councilmember Knight.
Thank you, Director King. I was just curious, looking at your report, it's impressive that when you were reporting up for the fiscal year 24-25 expenditures that totaled 11.4 plus million, that we were there was 2.1 million or 15.7% lower than the estimated budget. And I was just in looking at that pie chart you have, is that unique to that year, or you think is that typical where that we're 15% lower than our estimated budgets, or? I mean, it was impressive to see we saved almost $500,000 in fire and emergency contract services.
I would not say the salary and benefit savings is typical. That was really due to some turnover in the planning department. We started the year with 4 positions budgeted, and then the employees in that department moved on by, I think, August or September of that fiscal year. So then we had to pivot and recruit, and so that took some time and generated those savings. So that salary and benefits savings is not typically that high.
And then for fire and emergency contract services, there's a little over $500,000 that were, or 25% of the budget that was not expended in that year.
Correct. And that is pretty typical of each fiscal year. We do budget based on the estimates that we receive from CAL FIRE based on what they think it will cost to provide services, but we only pay twice a year based on actual costs for services rendered.
Good. Thank you for your report.
And just to add, the only problem, truthfully, with being fully staffed is you don't have salary savings. So back to our previous report. So I would anticipate moving forward we won't have the salary savings. And I think the reality of public safety right now, both police and fire, is they're not fully staffed. So truthfully, this is where I think it is a trend that probably won't change. They're struggling, and they will, at least since I've been in the public sector, have always struggled to be fully staffed. It's just generally an issue with both police and fire, or sheriff and fire. So I do think you can anticipate savings because they will give us a number based on what, I don't know if it's fully staffed. They may account for salary savings, but generally speaking, they can never achieve what they seek.
Thank you.
So now I'd like to, without, Councilmember Tripp, your light is still on, is that?
Sorry,
Oh,
I didn't mean.
okay. Would anybody from the public like to come up and address the council? Seeing none, we'll bring it back. So we have a resolution. I think the only thing I would like to add, I think in what has, I think is quite remarkable still, that we have these extra unassigned fund balances, because this was the first cycle that we actually raised the expectations that we expect from our TOT. I thought we always under budgeted that in the past. So even with that, and I know that it came in pretty close to what we did, but I think that was a very smart move to not say, oh, well, then we'll just have a lot of extra money left over, to really get that major source of revenue budgeted as tight as we could. So, and we still have these unassigned fund balances. So I am certainly going to support the town's recommendation to move the unassigned fund balances. I think it's also prudent because we did wait for some of the extra fund from 23, 24 to now, but I think moving it into Fund 50, as the staff recommends, is a good idea. And just, for the public too, these are moved in, they're not spent. So as anything that we move into Fund 50 is spent, comes back to the council for a decision. So no decision has been made except to not have these funds hanging out there in a little bucket, like I always like to call it, but actually moving them into a fund. So any other council comments? Councilmember Tripp.
Yes, I wanted to say what you said, which is that this doesn't authorize any expenditures, but it also fits with one of our goals that we identified, which in our goal setting, which was to save money. I think we just said save money for the commons, and so this fits with that. So I too support this.
Okay, so I don't see any other council comments. Can I get a motion and a second to approve the resolution, and also please acknowledge the change in item 1 from $3,050,000 to I mean,
To 3 million.
To 3,050,000.
from not
From 3 million.
3 million to 3,050,000. Thank you.
I'm watching. Pam, if you're going to hit your button.
Okay.
I move that we adopt resolution number 26-4399, receiving the year-end financial report and assigning the funds as mentioned with the one correction. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Motion and second. Would you like for us to?
You may vote now.
Thank you.
That item passes unanimously.
All right, thank you very much. And
Thank you.
now, thank you very much, Celia, for your report, and you can change those funds for us. Administrative item B, we are going to receive a preview of, this is the, I don't know if this counts as one of our official budget meetings or not, or when we start counting, but we're going to receive a preview of proposed fiscal year 26-27 and 27-28. So we are planning out for the future for our biennial budget from staff, and then we will discuss it. So please. you
I'll
have the floor.
introduce Kyle with
okay.
his new hat on here as our finance analyst, but
Okay.
I also would tell you, yeah, this is a budget meeting. It's not a workshop or a study session or anything where you're going to be asked to review numbers. This is sort of the kickoff. As I
So this
mentioned,
is budget meeting number 1.
yeah, typically or historically, at least prior to the 2-year budget, which was something we adopted relatively early on, you would have a staff report you called parameters, if you recall, for those that were on the council. So this is similar. I think what we're trying to do is to preview it. Now that we're in a 2-year cycle, this being sort of a budget year versus a goal-setting year, I think it's changed a little bit. And Kyle, Celia, and the team have really worked kind of on a process that makes sense. I will tell you, April is, to me, like budgeting month in terms of whether we need 1 or 2 workshops to get to what is hopefully a May adoption hearing. You have to adopt a budget by the end of the fiscal year. So you like to get ahead of it in case there's issues so you can go back and forth. But, and I think you and the community that's listening can generally look to what I think is April 7th and if needed, April 21st, the first and third Tuesdays as the meetings where we will get into, what you would consider a workshop or a study session. So with that, Kyle can kick it off. But again, just looking for general direction tonight, nothing specific.
Thank you, Brad. Good afternoon, Mayor and Town Council. Kyle Batista, putting on my financial analyst hat. I'm a little stuffy, so if I get a little teary-eyed, it's not the numbers, I think.
Not from the numbers. Okay.
Maybe. All right, so the purpose of this presentation is to provide a big picture initial preview of the upcoming proposed biennial budget for fiscal year 26-27 and 27-28. And then at the end of the presentation, like Brad was saying, we'll open it up to discussion for any potential budget items if you'd like for some additional direction from you. Throughout January, departments have been entering their preliminary budget numbers, and then the finance team will be reviewing those numbers throughout the month of February. And our goal, as always with our budgets, is to maintain our core services and invest in long-term sustainability, all while advancing council-adopted priorities. So just a quick reminder of the structure of the town's general fund as well as the town's reserves. And it's kind of nice piggybacking this off of the unassigned fund balance discussion. But remember, every fiscal year starts with, especially the general fund, starts with the beginning fund balance. And then we budget for revenues coming in, expenditures going out, transfers in and out to other town funds. And then that results in our ending fund balance for that year. And then that ending fund balance number has its allocations, which we saw that list in Celia's presentation. So if ever there's a time where an unexpected expenditure comes up, the first place we go to is that assigned for budget contingencies. So that's why on our little bucket illustration, we have our allocations as the handle. That's our first source that we would go to. And then the second source is our general fund reserve, which is a completely separate fund from the general fund. So that's Fund 7. And the balance of the policy minimum is for that fund to have a balance that represents 35% of the general fund expenditures. So the assigned for budget contingency is the 5%, and then the general fund reserve is the 35%. And currently, Fund 7 has a balance that represents 40% of the fiscal year 25-26 budgeted expenditures. So those are the two reserves that we can always dip into if necessary. And just as a reminder, the town also has 2 Section 115 trusts for the pension obligations as well as the other post-employment benefits. And those take care of, we contribute from the general fund to those and to cover the CalPERS UAAL, as well as pay for monthly retiree medical payments. And yes, piggybacking off of Ashley's presentation, this upcoming budget will have 36 full-time positions and then about 60 part-time and seasonal staff, mostly in Parks and Rec Department. And the cost of living adjustment will be included in the biannual budget. And then on top of our internal staff, we also, of course, have contracted services with the sheriff, the fire department, as well as building and planning and other services that we contract for. And really, the nice thing about having the biannual budget is it gives the off year where we focus on town council priorities. So last April 2025 is when you had your goal setting session. And so this year, being the off year, focusing on the budget, we're really just going to be pushing forward all the initiatives that were discussed there. Obviously, the Yountville Commons being a major focus, as well as sustainability efforts. Capital projects in the upcoming budget. The Fund 50 capital projects are going to focus on the Yountville Commons and sustainability efforts. And then our capital projects for water and wastewater will be based on the 5-year capital improvement program that we've already outlined. And the town will, of course, continue to use Measure T and Measure U funds to maintain and improve our town's streets and roads. Now, going back to the general fund historically has 3 major revenues. Transient occupancy tax makes up 57% of the town's general fund revenue. Property tax makes up 18%, and sales tax makes up 11%. The upcoming budget, we are going to assume a 2% annual increase on property tax and a 2.6 to 3% annual increase on sales tax. Looking at general fund expenditures, total salaries and benefits compensation represents 46% of general fund expenditures, and we'll be receiving the CPI release. It comes out mid-February that we use for the budget, and that's going to drive the increase to our salary costs. And then, of course, law enforcement services, fire and emergency services, and other contract services make up a bulk of our general fund expenditures. This year, you will be seeing a new line item in each department. We worked with a consultant this prior fiscal year to develop a model for determining funding needs for the town's repair and replacement funds, and we calculated annual allocations to operating departments to meet those needs. So there's going to be a new line item in each department that's going to help fund our upcoming, if there's any fleet we have to replace or any major maintenance on the buildings, and it'll just help smooth out those costs. So we're really looking forward to that in each department. So that will be new. It's very similar to how the IT allocation, different methods, of course, but how we see a different line item in each department for IT, very similar. Debt service, we currently have 3 annual payments that we make. From the wastewater funds, we make a payment to the State Water Resources Control Board. We do have our final payment for $131,000 in November 2026 this year. And then from the general fund, we pay $550,000 a year on the 2017 lease revenue bond for the community center project, and that bond matures in November 2039. And then there's the 2020 direct placement financing for Town Hall and the Madison Yount Sewer lateral project. That is the one that will be maturing soon, June 2027, and will relieve the general fund from a $350,000 annual payment. So that was just a quick overview of some of the items you'll be seeing when we have our more detailed discussions coming up. So now if there's anything you want to bring up before our April 2026 budget workshop so that we can plan for that, please feel free.
Okay, I have a couple questions on, I just want to talk about the existing debt. So,
Yes.
and sorry I didn't get a hold of you. I don't want to put you on the spot, so if you don't know, but I think I kind of have some information. So I just want to first talk about, you've got 3 items here. So the lease revenue bonds for the community center. So as I remember back, we borrowed about 20 million. Is that about right? And so we're just about ready to get that paid off. Is that the right number?
I think the number is closer to 12 million that was
12,
issued
okay.
in 2008.
Okay.
They were refinanced, so that's why you see the 2017
Okay.
date.
So it's about,
I could look at the numbers, but Celia, do you know the number offhand? I think it's
no,
not
it had a
20.
2
It's
in it.
closer
Okay.
to 12.
12, okay, so, and the lease revenue bonds, just, kind of for the public, what that means, if we hadn't paid our payments because they're lease revenue bonds, whoever loaned us that would then own the community center. But, so pretty soon, we are going to own the community center. So that is great for that $12 million project. Oh, I know where I probably was thinking the 20 million in today's dollars. I know I calculated it someplace.
It could be. I just want to point out, we will own it in 2039. The next one is 2027,
That's-
which is Town Hall and
Okay, I'm skipping,
and the
yes,
yeah.
ahead. So, so that is the next one. So that is for the town retrofit project. Do you recall what that amount was that we borrowed?
Not off the top of my head. I can look
Okay,
it up, though. I'll let
okay.
you know.
That's fine, but that is what I jumped ahead, that's going to be great, that we're going to get that paid off. And so that
We have
money-
2 more payments.
Yeah, 2 more, that's great. And the State Water Resource Control Board low-interest loan, too. Just wondering how much, if we know how much that was.
I'm looking these up, and we'll have numbers in a
Okay,
moment.
great. Yeah, just I think it's good for all of us to kind of remember the debt service, where we started, where we are paying these off, and these are all great projects that were critically important. I remember when we talked about this building, what do we do? And there was a lot of discussion back then about knocking it down, and I'm really glad we didn't knock it down, and we really have this great historic landmark still. And it's safe for all of us to be in. So, yeah, those are just, I think, will be interesting for, and I have some other comments later, but let's get through some other council member, Vice Mayor Reeves. I'll get your new name right next time, I promise.
I just have one short question, and it refers to your comment about the projected growth in, I forget what it was, but anyway, you didn't mention TOT, because last time we budgeted for flat TOT.
Correct.
Are we going to, what will our budget assumption be for TOT this time?
Want to talk to that, Brad?
Yeah, so, I mean, we haven't gathered the data. I think, as you point out, with the 2-year budget, we decided to stay flat between the 2 fiscal years, and we presented a 3% growth option, which was ultimately what Visit Napa Valley adopted. They did between, I guess, last fiscal year and this fiscal year, they saw 3% growth. We'll see. We'll know more. We'll have 2 more months under our belt in April. We will reach out to Visit Napa Valley, who does monitor. They call it the STAR report, the Smith Travel Research Report, that provides a lot of data, and then we'll present, whatever we feel is a reasonable projection based on that data in April.
Okay.
Councilmember Tripp.
I had 2 questions. One is fairly simple, but and it kind of goes with what we were just talking about, how to project the TOT. On the property tax, the 2% is a safe bet, because as a homeowner, I think we all get our 2%, unless we protest. But in general, when houses turn over, you can get huge tax increases I mean, huge, if they've been long-term homeowners and or if people are building large houses, which is going on in my neighborhood. So the 2% seems really conservative. What has the past history shown?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I mean,
it does not move. There have been a couple of years where we've seen larger than 2-3%, but it's
Okay.
pretty stagnant.
It's
But
pretty stagnant.
yes.
Okay, and the market's been pretty slow on turnover.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was my question. And then I just wanted to ask this is following the mayor's question on the 2017 lease revenue bonds that I guess started in 2012. I'm assuming we refinanced to push it out to 2039 for a better interest rate, or
Yes.
what was the logic of that?
There was a better interest rate, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And it's
If I could just interject on that note, the 2008 lease revenue bonds were originally $10,710,000 that were financed, and it was refunded in 2017 with a balance of $8,500,000.
Okay.
And then the retrofit, the town retrofit program in 2013 was originally $4.2 million financed, and it was refunded in 2020 with a balance of $2,303,000.
Okay. And in general, because it's always cheaper not to pay interest, what do you have a sense of what the interest is on the $8 million that we ended up turning around and reborrowing in 2017?
Not off the top of my head, but I can look that up as well.
No, it's okay. I was just curious. Yeah.
But yeah, as I recall, they were very, very, very low. It was like just a few percent because interest rates really plummeted that time. So it was just kind of a no-brainer for the council at that time to kind of refinance and
well, I want to first correct one thing because I think, Celia, and you can double-check this, but the 2008 lease revenue bonds were probably a total issuance of about 12. The 10 point whatever number you just outlined is likely what the construction costs were. But when you get into cost of issuance, you sort of add a lot of numbers. Plus, there's a reserve that's in there, et cetera. So I want to look at the bond book, which I have in my office, but I do think it's closer to 12. I think the other issue in terms of refinance, and it's just amazing to me, the financial advisors and the people that do bonds, they know exactly when you're in the money in terms of a refinance. And, we're seeing interest rates drop. I don't know exactly. The lowest they got were in the twos, and, we have these fluctuations, but there's a lot of people that look at those numbers and they will immediately start calling you when the refinance is profitable. So right now, I think we're in a good place based on the interest rates we have. No one's ever called me since I've been in Yountville. And I think that, obviously with only 2 payments left on the 17 or the town hall bonds, we could pay those off tomorrow if you chose. It's not a significant principal amount that's left. So yeah, I think it's all interesting data. We'll talk about that obviously as we talk about financing options for other capital projects.
So, because another question that came up with the property taxes, I think we did have a couple spikes that we had some big hotels. When big hotels turn over and room keys go from $300 a night to $1,000, that can definitely give us a big boost or a spike in some property taxes. But now that we're talking about property taxes, I have a question for our attorney. So, because I've heard, some people concerned about the council if something, if we have any debt failure, could raise property taxes. But my understanding, these are ad valorem taxes, and the council does not have authority to raise property taxes in the town of Yountville. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Those are capped at 1%. That's Prop 13, and it goes up with an inflationary every year that we all experience, or all homeowners do. But no, the town council cannot impose a different ad valorem tax.
So that's why with the lease revenue bonds, basically, if there was any default somebody else owns the community center, basically, so.
Right, it's under the terms of the bond offering, and it is usually secured by assets, and there's a
Right.
lease arrangement.
So once you
Comes to the name
build,
lease.
that's the asset.
Yeah.
All right, so, Councilmember McKee, okay, go
I just
ahead.
want to add on to that, just so we have total clarity. You know, the voters can approve a parcel tax, which is equivalent to, it goes on your property tax bill, let me put it that way. And I think the other thing, since we talked about, property tax, part of the reason it doesn't fluctuate, we get a small percentage of it. I'm not sure exactly. It's 20% usually. The rest goes to the schools and the county and the state. So you're not getting the full amount when you sign your bill. That gets carved up quite a bit versus TOT, which we get 100% of. The other thing that happened last year or the year before, just so you know, which can happen, the estate challenged their valuation and was awarded a significant reduction. So we talk about, something sells and it gets increased, which is true. The opposite can happen if significant properties like the estate will challenge their assessment and get it reduced. So it still is a steady stream, but you can have these sort of things that make it feel volatile, but relative to other tax sources, it really isn't.
But the property tax, parcel tax would be something like Measure A, which was the flood control that goes on property tax.
Yeah.
But that has to go on the ballot.
Yeah, it has to be voter approved. Right. It can go to the general fund. I mean, usually they try to organize it as a special tax to pay for something specific, but it can be a general fund tax as well. I know that St. Helena tried whatever they tried that didn't pass in the most recent election.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Councilmember McKee.
I want to add something under new initiatives, if I may. I'd like to have some funds allocated for a CIP study at California at Highway 29, the intersection there, for mobility enhancements and safety. I can give more details, but I think the sidewalks on the Vineyard side, so that would be on the north side, are steep, and I had seen a veteran in a three-wheel take a spill there. Okay. And then I think asking if we can work with the state to do a better stop sign at the off-ramp and actually blinking lights, because pedestrians are at risk there, and as well as cyclists. It's just a busy intersections with lots of directions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's finish off questions, because then I want to go to the public, and then we'll kind of bring back. That's okay. That's
I'm
okay.
always too soon.
Let's see. Councilmember Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you for your report. And Council, every month I look forward to your reports on Measure S and the TOT reports, and the community can access those reports from the Town of Yountville's website. And what's, I think, beneficial, especially for the TOT, is that you provide a lot of history, and you can look at it and look at the changes in TOT over many, many years. And so it's a beneficial information, and we can see the how it changes and things like that, and annually, even interestingly from month to month, how we have spikes and typical lower numbers in the wintertime. So thank you for your reports, and it's helpful. I do have just a general question. I was looking here, I'm not sure if you could answer, or maybe it's for somewhere in here I read about how in 2022 we did the wastewater and the rate studies, and we're in now the 5th year of our rate study. So in this next biennial fiscal 2-year cycle, will we do another rate study? Will that be in 26 or in 27 or?
27.
27.
Yes.
Okay. So it's in January of this year. Are we in the 5th year of our?
This must be the 4th, if it was right.
Fourth
year. Yes.
Fourth year.
So beginning of 2027 will be the 5th.
We do the 5th year of
Correct.
that 5-year rate study.
Correct.
And in this next cycle, we'll do another rate study for that the next 5 years after that. All right. Good. Thank you.
Yeah, we typically try to do it when there's not an election year. So that's another way to kind of remember. It was decided a long time ago that that was a good move. So that's how we kind of set up that 5-year cycle.
But at some point in this next biennial budget, as we're in the past, which this is, I think, for the community should realize too, that will be our second biennial budget. And I hope for the community and town staff and everything. I think the first 2 years were successful, and giving us an opportunity on off years to do planning. And so now we're really beginning the second 2-year biennial, and it'll be a good process to be working through this. And then I assume we'll have funding that we'll plan for to do this rate study in 2027. It will be a part of this budget.
Yes, it will be in the budget.
Thank you.
Questions, Councilmember Tripp?
I did want to ask Council, on tax increases, I definitely understand under Prop 13, the town has no power to increase taxes. In fact, the state doesn't have any power. But for example, other taxes, should real belt tightening be required, could be voted in, such as, I think, in St. Helena, they looked, and this is a very common thing in most cities, a transfer tax. So when you sell your real estate, you have to pay a transfer tax. And that, of course, did not pass. So there are other ways of generating funds other than, strictly speaking, property taxes. Is that correct?
Yeah, there are other taxes. TOT, of course, sales tax. Parcel taxes, in addition to the ad valorem tax, can be done.
Okay.
They have to be special taxes, so there's a way to frame those in a particular way, but it could be to fund particular things.
Okay.
A transfer tax is only allowed for counties unless you are a charter city. So
And Yountville's not a charter. Okay.
Correct.
And then the other thing I just wanted to point out, and Brad alluded to this, but in 2008, during the real estate crash, a lot of towns and cities got hit because everybody appealed their tax assessment. And then property taxes went way down because the value of the property, in many cases where I was living, went down by half. I don't think that will happen in Yountville. And you can correct me, but some cities and towns, I think, voluntarily began reducing the assessments because they were no longer realistic. So fingers crossed that that would not happen in Yountville, but it's not. It has happened in the last 20 years.
Okay, I'm going to go to the public and see if we have any public comment before we bring it back, and I'll let council start listing other desires and wishes and changes.
Alan Tenscher. I'll save the comment for the second and ask the question. I was surprised to see in the revenue that other sources to the general fund is 14%. What are those other sources?
Most of them, they go under the category of licenses and permits revenue fees, as well as charges for services. So it's a lot of the building and planning department activity.
To an amount that is greater than our sales tax revenue, which is 11%. That's amazing. Well done, I suppose, unless you're on the paying end. And then the comment, I think as we go into the budget process, I think it's going to be very interesting to look at the predictions and what the assumptions are in the models for both sales tax and for TOT. And so I'll look forward to participating and watching assumptions and gaining insights into how you make your choices on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to make a comment before I bring it back to council? Seeing none, I will bring it back to council and just follow up on the TOT. 54%. This is actually, even though this number keeps going down, this is great number. It really shows the diversification now that we finally have reached. Still, a big number in terms of dependence on TOT, but I recall a day when it was almost 80%. It was really pretty fragile and made me always worry about the big earthquake or whatever, in our hotels. So having a number like 54%, and I think this has probably even gone down from the last few years, and sales tax has, on the corollary, has really increased percentage-wise. So I'd just like to see this more balanced budget that we have here. So my overall comments are, in the past, we've always had a lot of, new capital projects, initiatives. So as we kind of move through the budget, I'm going to personally be taking a really close look at all those, capital CIP budget. And I know staff will too, because we know we have a pretty big project looming here. So some of that stuff that's, we need to have versus nice to have, if staff can, think about that. I bet you're already thinking about that, especially when I see the water tank kind of popping up here and how that's going, and some of the other things that you're mentioning. So I think staff is right on the right direction to be looking at this. And but also the, any of the, even though our utility funds are, isolated, I think that they look really healthy to me too on both of those. So I think that we should, unless something surprising happens, I think, the public should really expect, some very moderate increases, in both of those enterprise funds too. But anything you can kind of give us as a foresight into that, I think would help the public as well, perhaps. So, Vice Mayor Reeves, your general comments.
I think I'm going to focus mostly on hopefully a new initiative or an addendum to an initiative we've already begun. But with the work on the Climate Action Committee in the county, and the possible adoption of the RCAP, which is kind of trying to get buy-in from all the communities to do initiatives that save on greenhouse gas emissions and other aspects that create a kind of dirty environment. I'm hoping that we can look to leveraging some money from our general fund or through grants that are available to make sure that we, for instance, I think the first initiative is chargers in the valley. So possibly MCE is doing multifamily unit grants for, we could look for the commons and for any other building projects that are coming up, but also just to make sure that we have chargers that create an atmosphere of calm among people who have EVs. Where they're placed is probably strategic and good to look at, but most people who have an electric car kind of plot their trip and will stay in a place they might not have thought about just because they see it on their lineup on their car, whatever app they use. So I think it behooves us as another amenity that we offer to our residents, but also to visitors to make it a desirable location. So if we can put in effort as a town and also make sure we leverage what's available in the grant arena, I would really like to see that.
A couple other things I wanted to also comment on. I think it's a fabulous idea for these replacement funds for each department. We used to have like a bucket for that in general, or just a few major buckets. So I think that's a great idea. So I just wanted also to remind you of when you do that, probably, I'm assuming you're going to do that for buildings as well. So for the community center, I don't know if you can figure out a way to remember and maybe ask the county, because they have the library space. So can the county perhaps add in or be charged by us on, a 2-year cycle, funds for replacement of their portion of the roof or HVAC or however that works. So just something for staff to think about, so we don't forget about them. And let's see. Other than that, I think, the general direction, I know we've got, just so the public, we're just taking broad strokes at our first budget meeting here. I think it's always great that, we've got such well-funded trusts. They're doing great because the stock market's doing great. And we just don't have a lot of the big debt problems that, so many other cities and towns do. So, and I love my paving index, so thanks for that too, John. So, overall, it's such a pleasure to be able to work on a budget and not have a lot of angst kind of coming up. So because, we've paved the roads, so to speak, to, really be in such a great position here. So those are my final comments. Any other final comments? Councilmember McKee.
I will add one. This might be more for April meetings, but with regards to TOT, now that we have the Deputy Director of Marketing and Economic Development going out and working with the Tourism Improvement District to create a collective that will be able to be more proactive in getting business for larger groups midweek, where we haven't done that before. I'm sure we'll talk about it in more detail and hopefully hear from Deputy Director herself. But I think that will make a difference, that something that we're doing unique in Yountville that the rest of the valley isn't doing.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, just so the public knows. I think we will have more information.
I mean, I can go into
that.
detail, but I don't know if it's appropriate.
Yeah, on that later, but
we're going for it.
We are actively thinking about our TOT, and probably will be instituting some changes that down the line I expect some great financial benefit from. So just to let everybody know that we'll talk about that more. Thanks for bringing that up. Councilmember Tripp.
And actually, I had the thought on that, and actually a resident mentioned this to me, and because I think it'd be great to have some metrics to see. Mm-hmm. Not because revenue says one thing, but revenue reflects inflation, and generally inflation is up 25%. So since 2020. So anyway, so of course we have more TOT, but nights tell a different story. So would you expect we could see some? Well, I think it'd be great. Let me just back up and say I think it'd be great to see some metrics after our new director has had a reasonable amount of time.
I agree, definitely. Full reporting.
And it was just one example of some things that are being put in place. Like when we have special events, and we're hoping that it'll attract some visitors. When we have some of those special events, we've got a lot of the hotels have QR codes. When they register, they can actually click on a QR code, so we can actually measure specific heads and beds with an event. So it's more than just clicks and likes and stuff like that. So some of that is happening.
Well,
and
we get a report of nights that people spend, so we know how many actual nights people are here. We have an occupancy rate.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So that
Yeah.
tells us kind of the heads and beds, right? I mean, we don't know how many people in the room.
But we'll know that some of the activities that we're doing are specifically driving traffic to the hotels that we really never had that opportunity before. So this will be kind of some of the beginnings of that, because we don't really know if a lot of the stuff we're doing is really having any effect.
Well,
This will help with that.
As we start booking programs that are collective at the hotels and not just one hotel and their own private information, we will have those records and those reports of what business we've influenced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Say that again. I'm just curious, because I know we can see how many more rooms get rented, but how will we know that we influenced it?
To go more into detail about the program. So Yountville has hotels that maybe they have, let's just say, 100 rooms. And when businesses, say a Bay Area tech company, want to come to town and they're looking for 300 rooms, we would not show up in their event-specific search engines. Oh. So they might see Meritage or they're going to see Silverado and they're going to try to book their programs and check them for availability. If we have a collective that joins together in that platform, now they'll see, oh, Yountville Collective, they do have 300 rooms. Oh. And we all know that the walkability in our town is shorter than some large hotels are, certainly conference centers. So it gives us visibility on a platform that we've never individually been noticed on before. So we're going to be showing up when this happens. I mean, it's still in the works, and it's going to take some heavy lifting and organizing and very thoughtful planning behind the scenes, but it will give us the ability to compete with some of the bigger hotels.
That's great.
Yeah.
And it might be something that once we drill down into this as a council, we'll look at that kind of cost center and say, hey, we want to maybe, front load that a little bit to help move it along. So something maybe a future
certainly
discussion.
the Tourism Improvement District, all of the GMs and sales managers are strongly behind it and putting funds towards it.
Yeah. So.
And just a few things. First of all, Beverly Wilmore, the new hire, can come in April and share some data. I go back to Visit Napa Valley is going to be the most significant or the most meaningful data that you will see. You could actually, they post their Smith Travel Research reports on their website. So if you're ever interested in looking at it, it's a lot of data. But, we work with them closely. Again, they projected 3% growth. We stayed flat. That was, I think, the council's decision. We gave you the option. You were conservative, which I think was the right move. The other thing that's going to be happening concurrent to our budget cycle is the local TID budget cycle. And Councilmember Key is now the chair. I'm the treasurer. We both serve on this board. This is something that is related to what you're all talking about in terms of the Yountville Collective, or you hear Bev referring to it as the portfolio. This is really generally the idea of, let's consider the town as one resort that can accommodate groups so that we can accommodate bigger groups. And I think it is already bearing fruit in terms of one group. I don't see us really being able to say, okay, well, here's clear data that shows connections and how that might affect the mega or the metadata in terms of Smith Travel. So that's just a lot of information. I also think now that we have our contract renewal with the town contract with the chamber. This is something that's related in terms of aligning all of these things so that our focus Yountville statement is something that that we are really looking at it based on how do we grow revenue, and our top line revenue, which I think is obviously core to everything. So there's a lot to that. I'll make sure Bev has a chapter in the April presentation, but I think when we get to budgeting at the local TID, it's almost equally important. And the town's the custodian of that money, but it is governed by a separate board, just like the Visit Napa Valley money. And this is the 2% that all of our hotels pay on top of the TOT.
Yeah,
so,
and the goal will support sales tax too, and especially if it's midweek or winter business that we wouldn't normally have.
And Council Vice Mayor Reeves and I have been meeting pretty frequently with the chamber, going through a lot of their support and we're going to hopefully be experts really soon on, and so when we make recommendations to the council for that budget, be able to bring you some information and justification for those funds. So with that.
Good news. Last thing I'll say, just for sales tax purposes, we have a hired consultant. They work for, I think, 70% of the agencies in California. They give us a projection based on huge volumes of data. We look at it, Celia, Kyle, and I always question whether we can challenge their economics. But, you can always adjust that projection. But we get a hard number from them that will be in your April report. So just so you know, there's a lot of data behind that. And they don't come and present it. This is something that most municipalities throughout California utilize. So property tax is steady. HDL, we get good projections. And our biggest source, TOT, is kind of the hardest to predict because the data isn't as clear, but we will present what I just explained, and we can all make a decision through the budgeting process.
So do you have the information you need from council?
Yes.
Okay, great. We did our job, you guys. Good. All right. With that, we're on to staff presentation and informational reports. Brad, you're back up.
I'm going to look to Sam. We'll go down. We're going to make short presentations real quick.
Okay.
It was already mentioned, but just as a reminder, this Saturday is our second annual Mardi Gras Parade and Block Party. And so we have done a lot of outreach about the street closure impacts, and the Chamber will be reminding businesses. But a change from last year is the after party, the Block Party will happen at the north end of town in Noyo from Padrone to Madison instead of at Yountville Community Park, the same footprint as the Halloween Block Party. So that portion will remain closed after the parade as well. And that'll go from, the parade begins at 1 o'clock and the block party will end at 4. But we're looking forward to a beautiful day. We hope to see everybody out there. Thank you.
Aaron Heacock, Planning and Building Director. 2 quick things to report. Building permits have been submitted for the Humboldt mixed-use project. So they've been reviewed for completeness. They have been deemed complete. So they've been routed for review for compliance with town standards. So that is in progress now. Second thing, speaking of the RCAP that Vice Mayor Reeves just brought up, the draft will likely be out in the next month or two. It's technically their final draft. I'll be sure to let you know when that is out, and also to highlight some of the policy commitments that the document is committing the town to, so that we're all very aware of those.
Good afternoon, Council. John Ferns, your Public Works Director. I have 2 water-related items. The first one is, they're connected to each other, but the first one is the town-sponsored valve insertion project into the Calvet transmission line happened this week. And so we had tried to do that previously and then had an issue with the contractor and some equipment, but the valve went in this week. So once we acquire the correct pump, we will be able to supply the out-of-town customers with water during times that Calvet is, during certain circumstances when Calvet is shut down. The other connected item to that is the act of emptying line to insert the valve and then refilling line tends to stir up some color in the water. We switched back from Napa water to Calvet water on Thursday afternoon. Didn't see any color in the water on Friday, so we didn't put a message out, but as everyone is aware, the color showed up on Saturday. And so we've had staff out flushing throughout Saturday, and the problem is, as did Calvet, and the problem is now mitigated. And the lessons learned from that is, regardless of if we're seeing color at any time, we'll still let the customers know that the potential for color would be there because we've switched water supplies.
And I probably got more comments that they thought it was white, but those, I told them that these were just air bubbles from repressurizing. Was that correct?
That is correct.
Oh, good. Because I filled up a glass and it set for a while and it was clear.
Yes.
So I declared them air bubbles. All right.
Yes.
Thanks.
And I'll hand it off to the town clerk.
Okay, just want to announce a save the date for the Yountville Night Out 2026. It will be on July the 28th, which is a Tuesday. So I'm sure Bocce members will rejoice that they no longer have to schedule that Wednesday event. Information will be included in the Yountville Connection, which I want to invite and remind residents and community members to read. It comes out Friday afternoon and will include a message from the town manager, as well as call for volunteers for the Yountville Night Out and other great updates and information about town business and upcoming events.
Yeah, and in the Connection and in my, I usually shoot the video tomorrow that gets out on Friday, but we will start promoting the February 17th study session that we've been talking about. We're working through the details, but it will start at 3 o'clock, so it'll be regular time, but it'll be study session format, providing more opportunity for dialogue, community interaction, et cetera. We also do aspire to, and I'll confirm this by Friday, to set up Schmidt Hall where it will be hosted such that it will be, the information related to the project will be available on Saturday as kind of an open house setting, so a lot of documents and things that people can look at. Monday is a holiday that week, just so you know. That is President's Day Monday. And then Tuesday, we could do the same, open at 10 a.m., and then the meeting starts at 3 p.m. So we will also put out other outreach. I know that Brendan's going to do office hours or do his version of, meetings. I asked him if he could be available at the open house. So we're working through those details. I just want everyone to know that will be published on Friday. And then the following Friday, which is the 13th, is when the staff report, and we'll make sure that new information is in that staff report. So on the 13th, people have an opportunity to review that before the study session on the 17th.
All right, great.
I wanted to ask the town manager a question.
Okay. Question from Councilmember Tripp.
And I've mentioned this before, and I think what you're saying is we'll have a chance before the 17th. But especially on financial information, and for example, when we had the meeting where there was an initial pass by Melissa, the financial advisor, and the PowerPoint was not in the staff materials, and for good reason. The staff materials didn't have any sort of overview of it. It's very difficult real time to absorb that kind of information, detailed information. And I know from my own experience, sometimes it's hard to get PowerPoints out of people in a timely way. But when it's such a big project and it's some of the financial information, for example, that report was really hard to absorb real time and ask intelligent questions. So I would like to request, if at all possible, that sort of information be included with the agenda materials that go out for the 17th.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You done? Staff reports?
We are done. Thank you.
All right. Council external meeting reports. Council Member McKee.
Not on the list, but as a Napa County Commission on Aging representative, may I share just a little bit of highlights?
Sure.
Just a little bit of the programs that we've heard about at that level included the HHSA for the county, got a report. Providence Community Health has a PACE program. The ADRC, which is Aging Disabilities Resource Center, gave us year-end updates, as did the Ombudsman program for the county. California Senior Legislator, our representative, provided an update for 2025, as did Molly's Angels. Continuum of Care are doing a point-in-time count currently of the homeless, and that will also include for seniors, and Share the Care. And there were a lot of comments about all these nonprofits needing volunteers, so I had made the suggestion to them that we make a collective list so I can be distributing it, because quite frequently I have people that ask me about volunteering in that segment. So we'll be putting something out regularly. Share the Care in Napa definitely needs volunteers. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Vice Mayor Reeves.
I went to my first NBTA meeting, and it was a bit overwhelming. But I think the major item that was on the agenda was what's happening on Highway 29 through American Canyon. They previewed two options, and they were leaning towards one particular option that was going to be reviewed by American Canyon Council, I think last night or tonight, not sure. But funnily enough, the roundabout option was not the star of the show, partly because nobody really likes them here. I don't know why. But anyway, it's a combination of lights that are automated and possibly these lanes on either side of 29 that allow on and off traffic through the neighborhoods and things like that to facilitate movement through there. But I think the bigger thing that came out of that meeting and in my onboarding process was now I am going to be set up with a meeting with someone to do a ride-along on the B-Bus and talk about some of the things that are maybe more priorities for our local residents within the NBTA and our portion of that on the B-Bus. So I look forward to making that meeting happen really soon.
Thank you very much for that. I've been a passion of mine, so best of luck. Yeah. So we definitely had opinions. So anyway, best of luck for that. Okay, so seeing no other meeting reports.
Mayor, I just had a quick question. I know
yes.
there was an email from NVTA for a meeting in the near future. Are both of you attending that? They're looking for representation?
I am.
Okay, all right.
Is that
Thank
the
you.
ad hoc?
I think
The ad hoc meeting.
Yeah, I
Okay.
keep sending him an email. It's like, talk to Pam, talk to Pam.
Okay.
So,
all right, good.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, let's get a motion. We're going to adjourn to our a study session. Is that the right word? Special meeting? What is it? Study session?
Ew.
Okay, it's our regular
regular
meeting.
meeting.
It will be Tuesday, February 17th at 3 p.m., and it will be held in Schmidt Hall, not Town Council Chambers as stated on our agenda. So,
Will that meeting be televised then, or recorded, or?
Hillary's working on it. It won't be televised. It won't be streamed, but it'll be.
An
Audio
audio
recording?
recording will be provided after the meeting and placed on our YouTube channel.
oh, okay.
Audio, okay.
Correct.
Great. All right, so you got to be there. Come on out. All right, with that, can I get a motion and a second for our adjournment?
Move to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor, say aye. Aye. No one's opposed. Any abstain? All right. That's a wrap, everybody. Thanks for hanging in there one more time, Alan. Okay.